folks. I hope you're doing well. Listen, we've been talking a lot about questions that we have, and I think we all have a lot of them. And last devotion, we talked about Christ being the one that kind of brings continuity into our life. He's the cohesive factor that ties it all together. And one of the things that we question quite often, I don't know about you, but I do, and certainly I know that when you're hanging out with younger children, they ask a lot of questions when things happen. Is why? Why did that happen to me? How come this either bad thing or just some seemingly inconsequential thing to someone else, but to me it was, it was impactful. Why does that happen? And there's numerous verses that speak to this. One of the reasons why I think, for example, the Jewish people have had such a prolific testimony throughout history is because they were entrusted with the Word, and the Word of God is such a part. Just the Old Testament, let's just take that, is such a part of their heritage in their life, and even the learning of it. And the learning of it gives them a sense of understanding with regard to life itself. It gives them a basic foundation. Even in an unsaved state, just their relationship to the Word would give them a substantial sense of purpose in life. They're rightly related to the very revelation of God, the very person of God as revealed in the Old Testament. So, does it mean anything to us? It does. But think about this for a moment. We've all had bad things happen to us, and some, man, you wish if you could step in and just alter it, you would. You just hate to see someone have to suffer the way that they've suffered. And there's times in our own lives when things happen and you just wonder why a person has to suffer in such a way. I know people, even in our congregation, that are suffering through, illnesses, health issues that just simply continue to trouble them. And you can't ask, but in your heart think, God, why? And I just want to take a moment and just very simply look at the questions that we ask. And we've talked about the fact that Christ is truly the answer. He's been very clear that our wisdom is to be found in 1 Corinthians 1:27. And it says the very same thing in Colossians chapter 2, that in him resides all the wisdom and knowledge of God. It's to be found in him. So if that's the case, navigating life or succeeding in this life or having a good end in this life comes through Christ. And that becomes important to us. So why do these things happen? Well, we're human, each one of us. Some display that characteristic better than others. Some display certain aspects of humanity better than others, but we're all human. And as a result of our humanity, we have a tendency to go astray. That's just our nature. We tend to get on a path that kind of deviates from the right course. That's why Jesus said, look, there's a broad way that people go there in Matthew 7. There's lots of people that find that path, but there's a narrow path, one that you can find at great expense, but it's much easier to go the other way. We all do this. And what does God do for us? Well, certainly as his children, one thing that he does do is he corrects us. He redirects us. He comes alongside and he redirects us. First of all, in Isaiah 30 and verse 21, he cries out, this is the way, come on, walk in it. But what happens to those children that choose to continue on in their own way? Well, I think then, just as I was reminded this week by Pastor Kevin of the story of the shepherds over in Israel during the time of the Lord, when Sheep would go astray. The one time they'd go and get them, put them on their shoulder and bring them back. If they went astray again, they'd break their leg. And when they were asked why, somebody was observing, they asked why this sheep had a broken leg. He says, because this sheep tends to wander. Well, there's things in our life that happen that are hurtful things. I hope that everything that's ever happened to you that's hurtful has drawn you closer to Christ. It was meant to. Remember what it says in Psalm 119 and verse 67, and then again in 71, before I was afflicted, I went astray. But, after that, I've been drawn back to your word. Look, everything that happens in our life, God has a purpose of drawing us closer to him. That's one thing we can be assured of. That's why that whole portion there in Romans 8:28 all the way through 32, or actually 39, starts out with all things work together for good. We're the ones who love him are called according to his purpose. He's conforming us to the image of Christ. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. We're more than conquerors. All of those verses speak to the fact that God is using the things in our lives to reveal to us how much, how deep, how real, how true his love for us is. He draws us back to him. Now, I don't know what's going on in your life. You don't know what's going on in my life. And oftentimes Sue and I just sit down and talk about and think about things and just wonder. And the only conclusion we can come to is the one that I think is the only conclusion any person that knows the Lord can come to. And that is, these things are drawing me closer to him. I'm getting to know him in ways I would have never known him. I'm seeing him, even though I don't see him, through the trials and tribulations, the details of my life that some that probably would never bother anybody else but bother me. In 1 Peter 1:6-8, I love the one I can't see, but I just see him with eyes of faith. We have that privilege as believers. I hope you enjoy that privilege today and all the things that we both can explain and can't explain. Till next time, friends. God bless you.